This is George Dionne of the Rock is George podcast, and this is a KNAC.com exclusive interview with frontman James Christian of the hard rock act House of Lords. If I knew absolutely nothing about House of Lords, how would you describe the band's music to me?
I would say we are a heavy rock band with a progressive touch. I guess that's basically it. A hard rock band, progressive influence with keyboards, guitars, bass, and drums, and lots of vocals.
Well, I'd have to agree with that assessment. Listening to your latest studio album, Full Tilt Overdrive, it comes out on October 11th through Frontiers Music. When it comes to songwriting for House of Lords, are you the primary songwriter? Or does everybody have their share in the songwriting?
Everyone has their share. Sometimes it's only one person. Most of the time, it's a collaboration with the band, which I like it that way because having input from all different musicians when you're recording a song really gives it the band sound rather than one guy writing it and just piecing it together.
I would imagine, like a lot of bands today, that House of Lords records their music remotely, or do you have a chance to get together sometimes?
Well, we do it remotely, but we do it together. We're using the same kind of technology we're using right now, where I can hear someone else playing the parts and the drummer playing his parts, and I can do a scratch vocal while in the same environment without being in the same room. Do I think it's better than the original? No. I totally would love to go back to the old way of doing it. It's just not financially feasible to take people from all over the world and, bring them in a room to play together.
Well, let's talk about some of the songs from Full Tilt Overdrive. This is your 12th studio album as House of Lords. I believe the first single you released was Crowded Room. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that song?
Crowded Room was a song that I wrote the lyric to first before I even had a band track that I could work with. I had ideas, but I didn't have anything concrete. So I based it on multiple personalities. I'd seen a movie called Crowded Room, and it just affected me so much because I realized there are people that exist that have these kind of, mental illnesses. And I found it fascinating. So I just wrote about what I saw and kind of put it into my own head, how many voices were there, who you listen to, who you don't want to listen to. And there was just no space in my crowded room. So everyone needs to get out. It's just me. So that's basically how that song came about. I really loved how fast the lyric came because I really knew what I wanted to say. Jimmy came in slam dunk with a track that was perfect for it. And then Mark Mangold with the keys and Christian Führer, who is another writer that we work with. He also, I think he has a band called Seventh Key out of Sweden. So it all worked, pretty quickly. Once that song was recorded, the rest of the album started taking shape, and we kind of patterned it after that one song.
Another single you have out currently is Bad Karma. You got a music video with this too, I believe. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that one?
Bad Karma was an easy one because, we had that track already recorded. What we needed was a hook line because it had such a slinky guitar feel, and the actual track just sounded good as an instrumental that we needed to improve the chorus by just having some kind of chant going on. And that chant ended up being Bad Karma. That seemed to work really well with everything that was going on in the song without interrupting the flow of the music. 2 words into a chorus, Bad Karma, didn't really do much to, fuck with the groove. So that's how that came about. And the lyric again to that song is just about people who don't that do things to other people, maybe not meaning it, maybe really meaning it, but that bad karma comes back to you. Same way a good karma comes to you.
Now, as I'm listening through to the album, I get to this song, Taking the Fall. To me, it sounds reminiscent of Can't Find My Way Home. And I'm saying to myself, is it just because of the acoustics? But then I get to your PR materials for this album, and it is kind of a nod to Can't Find My Way Home.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I didn't write that song, as I didn't write Can't Find My Way Home. That was Stevie Winwood. But we certainly gained a lot of attention with that song. So when this song came to me, it was already completed, and all they needed was a voice to interpret it. So I knew immediately that I could make that song my own because I did it before with Can't Find My Way Home. I used the same the same approach, how I would sing it in the verses and how I would sing it in the choruses. And as a matter of fact, that song comes out this week as the third single. So we're really happy about that. They're releasing one every month until the release of the album, which is October 11th, I believe, or 12th.
11th.
And 11. So yeah, Taking the Fall is one of my favorite songs, by the way. Not that I didn't write it, but it's still one of my favorites.
Now you round out the album with this huge epic 9-minute song, Never Gets Boring, Castles High. I feel a little bit different for House of Lords for a song of this epicness. How did it come?
Well, I think it came out great. I mean, when it first was presented, I said, wow, 9 or 10 minutes long. I think it's closer to 10 minutes. And I thought this is going to be hard to swallow if we don't make this really work. And we worked on it. I'd say we worked on it for 2 to 3 weeks, just getting the pieces together. I mean, Mark Mangold had the blueprint, and we just needed to build a track around it and make that track and the segues into each part really interesting. So it didn't sound like, oh, here we go again. So for 9 songs, a 9-minute song, sometimes it's easier to write a longer song than it is to write a 3-minute song. Where you really got to get it all together in 3 minutes. So we had a lot of fun with that. Jimmy did his guitar parts that were a lot different than he's ever done on the other stuff that we recorded. He's usually flying through the fretboard. And on this one, there was a lot of just like Jeff Beck type stuff, which really blew me away.
We have to talk about this album art on Full Tilt Overdrive, this Pinball machine. I feel like a bit of every song is in this artwork. Who came up with the design, and how did it come together? Well,
I will. There's a gentleman that actually came up with the design. His name is on the album, but I can't remember it. If I had an album, I'd look for you. But we gave him a concept of what we were looking for: a pinball machine to represent full tilt, and then the overdrive just happened to be an added word there, meaning speed. So he took all of that and gave us the woman that we wanted on the top of the machine, who is a warrior. She's not a devil. She's not a demon. She's a warrior. So I hope somebody gets that, because a lot of times they think that House of Lords uses a lot of religious tones in our album covers and in our songs. But it's really not true, because, we write, saints and sinners is just, the same type of thing, but it's really not a religious type of thing like a striper would do. So getting back to the cover, you're right. There's a tank in there. There's a couple of other things that are reminiscent to the music that we have that's within the record. So, and I mean, I can't go any deeper than that, because the album cover to me is, I see something different every time I look at it. So people will also feel the same way.
And the album is going to be available on vinyl, which I'd imagine this cover art is really going to pop on. And you also have this orange marble vinyl to go through with it. Have you gotten your copy of it yet?
Not yet. If I did, I'd be holding it up right now for you to take a look at. I love getting back to vinyl. I don't play vinyl. I love to hold it, and I love to place things like that in my studio, where we have, all our achievements, mine and my wife, because Robin has quite a few of her own. And so the fact that they're actually selling a lot of vinyl these days is amazing to me. I mean, people, I don't know if they're actually playing it or if they're collecting it. It's hard to tell. Do you play it, or would you rather play it?
I play it. I got 900 vinyl on the other side of this camera. I play them.
There you go. I know. So people love the sound.
I think younger kids are collecting.
Mm-hmm.
I have a son-in-law who just buys albums. I don't think they've ever come out of the wrap.
That's amazing. You know, that, like, you know, we grew up with vinyl. You know, the first 3 House of Lords records were all vinyl, if I remember correctly. I mean, we did have we had cassettes, but that was it, you know, and then things got changed really quickly. Now CDs are kind of obsolete because you're just downloading your music. So the whole purpose is to get involved in holding the record and reading about it. And, you know, it just meant so much to me earlier in the days when it really did mean something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, is this pinball thing on the cover more of a concept, or are you into pinball as well?
Well, I pretty much suck at pinball. I think there's a few other guys that are probably better, but I think a video is coming out of Full Tilt Overdrive, and think somewhere later down the line that's going to happen. And I had to film a few scenes on a pinball machine, and I was doing actually pretty well on it. You know, it would have been nice if it was our pinball machine, which was the one on the album cover, but it was close enough.
So as far as the band goes, same guys that was on Saints and Sinners.
Yes.
Jimmy Bell's been with you since World Upside Down in 2006. Drummer Johan Kolberg.
Yeah.
With the last album. How did he end up in the group?
He ended up, well, because at that time, BJ and Chris McCarville were invited to work with Dokken. So they took the opportunity to do that. I had no hard feelings about it. Jimmy, maybe a little bit, because they were buddies. You know, Jimmy and BJ, you know, came together when they first joined House of Lords. But I did understand. And so I needed to find really talented players. And I was presented a demo of Johan Kolberg, and it was a different type of music. It was much more heavier in style, almost speed metal. And I thought, wow, this guy can play, and you can tell that he can play anything. So we used him on a few songs, and that was it. After he did a couple of tracks for us, I was able to see that he could understand what we were doing. And the album he started with was Saints and Sinners. And the album, the song, House of the Lord, was a very intricate song with a lot of different drum parts. And he nailed that completely. So I knew he was the right guy. Mark Mangold, on the other hand, I've known Mark for a long, long time, but I was introduced through my wife, who knows Fiona Flanagan. And Fiona said, you got to use Mark Mangold for a keyboard player. He's perfect. And I known his work with Michael Bolton. I think he was on a few other things, Drive, She Said, or a couple other albums that he did. And once we started working together, I realized he really was the replacement for Greg Giuffria. I didn't really have a replacement for Greg ever since the first 3 albums, but he's the only keyboard player, you know, that ever came close to having a grandiose sound, where all the other keyboard players kind of noodled. This guy was really a player in every sense of the word. So
Mark also co-produced the album with you as well. What
yes,
bring to the group in that respect?
Well, Mark has so many ideas. It's amazing, almost sometimes overwhelming ideas, you know, so you've got to pick and choose which ones you like. He's great with sounds. He hears things that I sometimes don't hear. My hearing isn't, you know, perfect. Mark's is. I mean, I've been playing behind Marshalls all my life. So, I mean, I have to rely sometimes on the high-end balances and what other things during a mix, or during if we're putting a rough mix together, I want to know, I want a second opinion. I want to know, are the drums and bass loud enough? Are they too loud? So I can bounce that off of someone like Mark. And then by the time it gets to the mixer, who is Dennis Ward, I already know what we're looking for. Okay. And plus, he's a great songwriter.
Yeah, he's got numerous projects over the years. Fantastic. I'm a fan.
Yeah, totally. He really is. He's a super talented guy, and it's hard to keep up with him. I find that he'll send me songs one after the other. So I'm like, slow down, because I got to absorb some of this stuff. It takes me a little bit longer to like fall in love with something. I don't almost instantly fall in love with anything. I think maybe one of the songs was the ballad I did, which, because I'm a ballad type of guy, I love having the opportunity to expand on a ballad where it's really about the voice and not about everything else. And he wrote a great one called I Don't Want to Say Goodbye, which is on the album as well.
So there's been a little bit of a bump in the road as far as live performances in support of the new album. You announced on your Facebook page that you're dealing with some health issues, specifically cancer. Do you want to talk a little more about it?
Well, yeah, I guess it should be, as most people already know, and it's a bladder cancer, and it's aggressive, and by being aggressive, it's kind of always following me around no matter what I do. If I go for the procedures to remove the tumors, I'm good for, maybe 6-8 weeks. And then I got to get checked and something else is popping up again. And it's that aggressive. So it's very frustrating for me to make plans. I have to find that window where I do a procedure, and then, 6 weeks later, I go back and they go, "You're still good." And that's when I know I can go out and say, "Okay, let's do a tour." And so far, I'm in the good place. So I'm hoping that I can start booking the tour now and getting through it, without any complications. It's something that I have to deal with. So I hate dealing with it, but what else can I do? I want to move forward because I know that that's going to make me feel better psychologically. I can't sit here and think about it. I need to go out there and do something. Doing the record was therapeutic. As much as I had to do my therapy, I was home. I went to do my therapy, waited till I felt better, because I never felt better the same day I did like a form of chemo. But so, you don't feel great. So I'd wait a few days, I'd feel better, do a vocal, and that's why it took about 8 to 12 months to put this record completed. But that's just of it.
Well, I'm glad that you mentioned you're in a good place, and that the music is helping you with the process.
It totally is therapeutic. What doesn't help me is downtime, time to think about anything. I don't want to think about shit. I just want to either be doing music or writing with Robin or writing with Mark. Anything to keep me busy. And that's why the tour is so important for me, because I know once I go out there, even if I'm not feeling great, I'm going to feel so much better when I'm on stage, and working and just working.
Absolutely. Well, I wish you the best of luck on all of that.
Thank you so much, George. Appreciate it.
Let's hit the time machine a little bit here. Let's go back to 1988, the release of House of Lords' debut album. It was the 35th anniversary last year.
Yeah.
What do you remember about recording this album, putting it together, and the response to its release?
Yeah, the funny thing is, there's nothing I don't remember. I remember every aspect of it, because I was a greenhorn from Connecticut. And I got plucked out of just doing clubs. I mean, I was in California looking for a gig, but things weren't going that great. I joined a band called LA Rocks. LA Rocks became Eyes. I replaced Jeff Costello, and we started doing showcases. Nothing was happening there, and one of the we had to do showcases. We had to hire bass players. The one we hired to do bass was Chuck Wright. Chuck heard my voice and he goes, you'd be perfect for this particular new new project that Gene Simmons has, and I'm in it. Greg Giuffria, Ken Mary, Lanny Cordola. So there was about 5 or 6 other singers that were on the line for the gig as well. So I had to go through a lot of hoops, meeting Gene, doing some sessions with Greg at his house. After that was done, and I got the okay, they said, okay, we've got like 7 days booked for you in the studio. And I was like, 7 days is, a really short time to do 10 songs. And it's new to me. But this is what they had, because the record was already recorded. They already actually had vocals on it, but they were another guy's vocals, David Glenn Isley, who we ended up being really great friends, which is amazing, because I was replacing him and I thought animosity is going to happen. That didn't happen. So in the studio, working with Andy Johns was another one of those things that, you have to catch your breath before you do anything, because these are all people I grew up with and hearing their music. And here I am walking in and doing a song while he's at the board. So I learned a lot of things really fast. I like doing a lot of takes, 3, 4, 5, 6 if I want. And I think I got 3 out of Andy each time. And I said, I'd like to do a couple more. He goes, no, you got it. I said that, but that note right there was just a little bit under. He said, that was perfect. He goes, you're listening to the music differently. You got to listen to the feel, the soul of it. And I started believing what he was saying after a few takes of other songs and going, yeah, that wasn't perfect, but boy, did I have a groove going on there. There weren't parts where it was like, that was a punch, or you feel like that was a punch. It was like singing your song, singing it through, and him taking the best that he wanted, which I loved. Rather than doing punches, he was just using the best of 3 vocal performances. So, recording that record was the best part of my career. But there wasn't a career prior to that. So that was the beginning of it. And then after that, touring with Gene to do promo. He knew I was the only one in the band that wasn't used to going out and actually talking about what we were doing or doing interviews. So he planned a promo tour all over the country and in Canada. And I flew with him everywhere and did interviews. That's how I got introduced, and I thought that was amazing that he would take that time to have people get to know me. So, and then after that, Scorpions tour, Nelson tour, 38 Special tour, Queensryche. It never ended. This was the best time of my life. KNAC. Are you the same as the radio station, by the way?
Kinda. That's what it was born off of.
Okay.
Radio station. Now it's internet.
You guys were the best for HOL. I mean, I couldn't believe it when the albums came out. You guys did I remember when Can't Find My Way Home came out, you had some kind of contest with that song, Cherry Pie, and another one, and they had a vote on which was their favorite song. And I was like, oh my God, how's this going to go? Can't Find My Way Home was the one they chose. And I walked away from going, way to go, you guys. I actually came to your studios and sang with Chuck. We had acoustic guitars and did Can't Find My Way Home in the studios at KNAC.
So speaking of 1989 and speaking of KNAC, have you caught Paramount Network's Nothing But a Good Time documentary yet?
No, but that sounds good. Is it out, or are you thinking of?
It's currently out, and it's about the bands from the Sunset Strip back in the 80s, Quiet Riot, and kind of the start of hair metal, Wasp, and Warrant and all those guys yet. And I figured you're probably one of the guys that lived it down on the Sunset Strip back then, right?
Absolutely. There was one thing I never did on the Sunset Strip, and I saw Warrant doing it, and I saw a few other bands doing that, and passing out their flyers. I was like, wow, that is real dedication to go out on that street and pass out your flyers. But with HOL, because Gene was behind this band 100%. When we had to play a club, like we played the Palace Theater, and Gene would set that up, and it was amazing to have that kind of pull, having a guy doing that for us. I never had to do the flyer thing, which I appreciated.
The flyer thing is actually a main focal point of the first part of the documentary.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Well, so, it was definitely one of the things that I was glad I didn't have to do. But I admire the bands that did it.
One of the bands that's a focal point of the documentary is Quiet Riot, and I actually recently found out that you auditioned for Quiet Riot after Dubrow left.
Yeah, I did, but I never got an audition. What I did was somebody told me about it, and I had a cassette. That's all I had, and they gave me Chuck Wright's address. So when I think I rang his doorbell, and he said, "Who is it?" And I just said, "James Kristen. I wanted to drop off something for a shot at the Quiet Riot vocalist." And he said, "Just leave the cassette outside." So we never absolutely met. So it wasn't until later, I'm talking about 8 months later, that when he came to do the LA Rocks thing, he goes, "Man, your voice sounds so familiar. Where did I hear the voice? Because I know I've heard you." And I said, "Well, I did send you a tape, but I never got to meet you." And he goes, "Well, we had already found it. We found somebody. I think, what was his name? He looked like me, Shortino. We kind of looked the same back then." And then Chuck said, "That was you?" And I said, "Yes, that was me. You never opened the door." So that we had a good laugh about that. And I remember he took me to the first party LA party that I've ever been to, and that was Vince Neil's a bachelor party, and it was on a pretty large boat. I mean, large, and everybody was there. Billy Idol was there. Everybody that I know was there, and everyone that didn't know me, it was my first introduction to that. But man, what a party that was! It was amazing, and I thought, this is what I'm in for. And I hadn't even done the House of Lords thing yet. It wasn't even my gig yet, but Chuck took me there as a guest. So we're still very good friends.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, getting back to the debut album just a little bit, when I was courting my wife in 2007, I made her a mixtape and I threw Love Don't Lie on there. And she absolutely loved it. And I even introduced her to the original version by Stan Bush, and she hated that one. She loves she loves the House of Lords one.
Well, tell her thank you very much. I mean, that was one of my favorite songs to do as well. I know that was a Stan Bush song, and I heard it again. I love ballads, and that song had it all for me. And doing the vocal on that was a pleasure, and doing it live was amazing because people knew the song because we had the video out on that song, and we also had a video out for "Want to Be Loved." So it was an amazing time to be in rock music, and I'm sad that it didn't last longer because the music industry changed on a dime, as you know, when Seattle music and Seattle bands came into the picture. It changed everything, and I'm sure it was inevitable at some point. Things do change, so that was the point it did. I got 3 albums out. I was lucky before that change.
Do you think at some point we could see a reissue of your early albums for some type, maybe the 40th anniversary or something like that? Or is this something that gets lost at the record label?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, I don't know. I'm pretty sure RCA BMG still owns the first 2. And I know Phil Carson, who was at Victory Records, which was part of Polygram, has Demons Down. I don't know. I mean, in order to make it work, we would all have to agree all the members, Chuck, Eleni, everyone would have to agree and come up with a split, a split percentage on it. But who starts it and who gets the ball rolling? I'm too busy doing this, and now I'm just too busy living life. So it's really hard to know who would be the one to take that on. You want to take it on? We'll let you do it and cut you in.
Might be a bit much for me.
Well, look, it is. It's an undertaking. Somebody keeps calling me from Europe and offering me for my album Rude Awakening. They want to reissue that and Demons Down. And Demons Down is a great record. I don't know how to go about any of those things, and the research would be just too much for me. So I just enjoy the past on those. I listen and I go, wow, those were the days.
Speaking of solo albums, your last one was Craving in 2018. Are you working on another one?
I actually am not, but if I get offered another solo deal, usually they do it every maybe 2 or 3 albums in, and they'll say, James would like to do a solo record. But if they haven't asked yet, and if they do, I would definitely do one because like I said, I want to work. That's just more important than anything to me.
Are you currently working on any other projects or for any other bands, maybe in the studio as a backing guy or something?
Sometimes I do backing vocals for people, but it's not anything that anybody's releasing. It's a demo project. Then they go, could you just do like 2 lines or 1 line? But I do stuff with Robin. Robin's working on a box set right now because I don't know if you're familiar with her career, but in Europe she was very, very popular and did very well in record sales. But so she's ready for a greatest hits record and would like to add 5 new songs to a box set. So that's something we're working on right now.
Awesome. I think a lot of people looking forward to that. I mean, Beck is quite popular over in Europe and
yes.
somewhat here in the States. I see time talking about Robin and asking for a new album.
Yes, she's one of those singers that she's one of the last great singers from the 80s who still can do everything she did back then, and she can do it now. I can't say the same for myself because I was doing so many different things earlier parts of my career. And as the years went on, your voice changes. The rasp is always there. Whereas in the beginning years, I could take it, put it in, take it out, slide it sideways, could do anything I wanted with my voice. Now I have, a little bit more of a smaller window, I should say. So I use it as the best I know how.
Well, it sounds fantastic on the latest House of Lords album, Full Tilt Overdrive. Those are all the questions I have for you today, James. The new album comes out October 11th, Frontiers Music. Fantastic album, and I wish you the best of luck with it, and I wish you the best of luck with your health, and thank you for talking to me today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.